Okay, and it's 3:01, so I think we'll start our Myeloma Manager webinar, and we'll have a brief welcome by Susie Novus, the president of the International Myeloma Foundation.
Well, thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure to be able to participate virtually, and I am getting an echo, so I apologize if I sound a little funny. First of all, I just want to thank Mike Katz for being the incredibly techie person that he is, and that has done so much with the IMF and the myeloma community at large over the years, moving us into the wonderful world of computers and internet and all these wonderful tools and programs that have allowed us to really help patients in a way that we've never been able to do before. And I'd also like to just take a moment to thank Celgene for providing the support that made this Myeloma Manager possible. So it's very exciting to have this technology that's going to help patients keep track of all the stuff that patients have, their charts, their numbers, and can make it virtually a paperless world for them and a way for them to communicate with their doctors in a much more organized fashion and make the most of the time when they're at their visits. So, Mike, show us what you got.
Okay, thank you, Susie. For those of you that are coming in late, welcome. This conference is a one-way audio and computer screen conference, so you can't speak into your computer. But if you do have questions, there should be a little tray in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and there'll be a little icon there with a question mark on it. If you'd like to ask a question, please click on the question mark, and we'll attempt to answer your question during the webinar. The purpose of today's session is to try and show you a new tool that we're very excited about that we've developed at the IMF with the help of support from Celgene called the Myeloma Manager. And the Myeloma Manager is intended to help you keep track of the things you need to know about your myeloma, things like lab results, but also things like your treatment protocols, and also to help organize your medical records. Like many programs, you can use it very simply and not use a lot of the features, and then there are a lot of very complicated things that more advanced users may want to use. So what we're going to try to do today is show you the basics of how to use it, and then also try to show you, for those of you that are interested, some of the more fancy features and encourage you to explore on your own to take a look at the program. So to start with, I'd like to just give you a brief introduction to the program and what led us to build it. Survival with multiple myeloma is a wonderful thing, and I can speak personally to that as I've had multiple myeloma since 1990, over 18 years now. But lab pathology, radiology reports, they pile up very quickly, not to mention all the bills and the insurance claims. And it's important to keep all this stuff because you may change facilities, you may change hospitals during the course of your treatment, but also it gets harder to stay organized as the piles grow. And being able to find the information about what actually happened at a particular point in time with your myeloma can be very, very valuable. Managing myeloma can also be an administrative nightmare. You know, you wouldn't think that a very serious disease like this would be an administrative nightmare, but it sure is. I mean, even if you look at doing things today like following the oral drug regimens like the Revlimid low-dose Dex regimen. I mean, how many of you have had problems remembering, well, did I start the cycle last week? Is tomorrow the last day I'm supposed to take the pill? Did I take the pill yet today? Was today the Dex day? Something that seems very simple can get very complicated when you're not feeling well and when you're just trying to manage so many details. Also, setting up and keeping track of appointments for exams and treatments and tests can be very, very difficult. So what the Myeloma Manager is supposed to do, and we hope it does well, is to give you a database of tests, normal ranges, health screens, and videos that explain the program, and help you build and display and print reports that you can use with your doctor and for yourself. Flow sheets are sheets that show your results over time, and charts are graphs, pictures of your results. To help you manage appointments, to-dos, contacts, using the Microsoft Outlook model, but extending it so that it can handle complicated treatment regimens. It also provides a personal journal. It allows you to scan documents and store them in your computer so that you can get rid of the paper. It also allows you to link appointments and journal entries and contacts so you can try and keep an organized record of what's going on. It has a live web link to current myeloma news and publications, and it runs and stores all the data on the user's computer. That's a very important thing. The IMF, the developer of the Myeloma Manager, does not upload any of your data. All of your data stays on your computer. It's your data. It's protected with a password, and it's encrypted, meaning it's in code, so that anyone that comes onto your computer tries to look at your data, all they're going to see is gobbledygook. They're not going to see your data. This is different from other solutions that are out there, like the Google Health, where they want to upload all your data onto the internet and then share it with your permission. But this data all stays on your computer. Okay. For those of you that may not have done it already, you can download your copy of the Myeloma Manager. It's free at manager.myeloma.org. There is a tech support site available, a forum at mmpca-forum.myeloma.org. You should see the address on your screen, or you can just email mmpca@myeloma.org. And we do want to hear from you if you're having problems with the Myeloma Manager. Over the past few weeks, I've heard from dozens of people actually who've had problems installing and using the manager, and this really helps us to identify bugs in the system where there's something that's not compatible with a particular type of computer, and it also helps us understand where people are having trouble. So we definitely want to hear from you. Send us an email, post a note on the forum, because this is how we're going to make this program better for everybody. Those of you that have installed previous versions of the program, the current version is version 2.0.20. And that was uploaded yesterday. We strongly recommend that everyone update to that version because it corrects a lot of bugs that you've helped us find. It also provides compatibility with Windows Vista 64-bit version. A number of people called to say that they were unable to install the program because they had Vista 64-bit. It should now install on your computer. So, without any further ado, I'd like to take you through the Myeloma Manager, show you some of what it can do. And first, we do want to thank Celgene very much for underwriting the development of the Myeloma Manager. This is a very complicated program, an expensive program to build, and we're able to give it to you because Celgene has paid for the development work on this program. When you enter the Myeloma Manager, this is what you should see, a welcome screen with tabs on the top. The tabs are Home, Results, Graphs, Calendar, Contacts, Notes, and Info. The home screen is meant to give you sort of an overview of what's going on. There is no data in this copy of the program. This is what you would see when you first load the program up. The only thing that's really here that's showing is a live feed from the IMF website, and you can click on any of these stories if you'd like to. You can't do it during the webinar because it's my computer, not yours, but when you're running your program, you can also, if you are visually challenged, you can make the font smaller or larger. You'll find these smaller or larger font buttons in many places in the application, and that gives you the ability to change the font size so that you can read things more clearly. When you first open the program, the most important thing for you to do is to start entering your lab results, because that's the core of the program, and that's where most of the value will come for you. So we've got on the front page here this button that the mouse is parked on that says Begin Entering Results. And if you click on that button, you'll notice that we're now out of the Home tab. We're into the Results tab. And there are two buttons on top here. There's a Quick Start button and a Select Test to Track button. The easiest thing to do to start with is to click the Quick Start button, which I'm going to do now. And when I click that, you'll notice that all of a sudden there's all this stuff that appeared across the top, all these different test names. So I've got IG, Quant, and underneath that it says IgA, IgG, IgM. I've got CBC with white blood count, hematocrit, red blood count, hemoglobin, platelets showing under that. I've got the font buttons here, so I can make that a little bigger so that you'll have an easier time seeing it over the net. Now, I can do a lot of things here. What you would normally do is sit down with your lab report and try to enter your results. And when you do that for the first time, you'll probably find that this isn't exactly the right set of tests for you. We've tried to include the most common tests on this panel, but everyone's different, and things are important to different people. So one of the things that you can do is, let's say that you really are interested in the free light test. So I see this heading here, free light, on the top. I can just take that and hold the mouse down and drag that, and you see those two red arrows. I let go, and then that's the first test that will appear on my screen. If I decide, okay, well, I don't really, my lab has a different range for hemoglobin than is showing here. So I have my mouse on the hemoglobin test, the HGB, and let's say that my lab says that the right range is 12.2 to 16.6. So it says, do you want to modify the test? I say yes. And then I can go in and I can change this range so that it's 12.6 to 16.7 if that happens to be what my lab does. And then you'll see that this has changed. So you can go in and you can change the ranges so that you get the right set of test ranges that will match up with what's on your lab report. You can also, if you click on this Setup Test button, you'll get a window where you can see all of the tests that you have selected for tracking on this window here, Track Tests. And let's say I don't care about the IgM number. I can touch that and then hit this little arrow which says Remove Selected Tests from the Track Test List, and that test will now be off the list. If I said, okay, well, I don't really care about percentage of neutrophils, I'm going to get rid of that. Or I don't care about any of these CBC percentages, I'm going to get rid of that. And click Save. And now those will be gone from the list of tests. So you need to just take a look at the test and see if there's one missing. Let's say that I need a test that's not there. I can click on New Test and say, let's say it's a CBC test that's not on there. So let's call it Mike's New Test. And I'll say that test is a number, and it has 2 decimal places, and the normal range is 6 to 9. And it's measured in grams per deciliter. Save that. And you can just copy this off of your lab report. So now if I look under CBC, I see Mike's New Test. So once I get the test correct to see what I really want to enter, I sit down with my lab report and say I'm going to enter a new date, a new report. So let's say that these results are for September 25th. I then get a form which has all of the tests that I've just defined, and then I just type these numbers in. So let me just type a few numbers in. I'll type in lambda free light numbers. So let me say 24, and let me put in an IgG number of 643, and that's all I'm going to type for now. And it's warning me that that test is out of range, that IgG number, because the range is 700. And it's telling me it's low. It's just asking to make sure that it's okay to do that. So now you can see I've got these 2 test results on here. And then just to make it a little more interesting, let me put in a result for a date prior to that. Let's say I had another test on the 2nd. So let's say the lambda result on that date was 25. And then let's say the IgG result on that date was 621. So now I've got these two results, and you'll notice on the IgG number that the first one has an L, and the second one, I'll make it a little bigger so people can see, the second one has an L inside of a triangle. Now what does that mean? If you have a result that's abnormal, it will say whether it's low or high, L or H, but if it's different than the last time, an arrow pointing up will tell you that it's getting better, and an arrow pointing down will tell you that it's getting worse. Now, if I click on that test, without doing anything else, I can click this graph button, and it will draw me a picture of those two values. And obviously a picture with two values is not very interesting, but once you start to get a lot of numbers in here, you can kind of look and see where things are headed. Let me add one more result just for the hell of it here so that the graph looks a little more interesting. Let's go back to August 6th, and let me just put in an IgG number of 900.
Mike?
Yes?
Every once in a while you're breaking up. I don't know why, but
okay.
I'm hearing it.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's take a look at the graph now with the 900 on it. So now what you see is a number that went from 900 at the beginning of August and then dropped below normal, normal being 700, indicated by this line, and then improving slightly back to 643. So that's a very quick intro to how you start entering data. If you highlight any of the cells on the graph, if you click the date button, it will show you all of the results that you entered for that date. And you can either change the results, put in new results, or you can print all of the results for that date. If you click on test, you'll get all of the tests, all of the results that you've entered for any date for that test. So, for instance, these are all of the IgG results, and you can change them or you can print them. If you click on the date and test button, then you can go anywhere on the results sheet. You can scroll around and put in any number you'd like, just like it was a spreadsheet. So I've just put in 3 platelet results, and I'm drawing a graph of that. Now, just to make things more interesting, just like they do on the cooking shows, what I'm going to do is to bring in a bunch of data that's been previously entered so that I can show you some of the other features of the system. Okay, so it says we've been successful. Let's see how successful we've been. Oops. Have to wait for it to reload the data. Okay, someone asked a question about if they have test results on their lab sheet that has the names of the tests and not the abbreviations. How can you find out what each of the abbreviations are? There is a website called labtestsonline.org, labtestsonline.org, and that generally will tell you that. But you can also ask the nurse practitioner at your facility, and they will probably be able to help you. Okay, my Myeloma Manager is being stubborn, so give me a minute here. It's not reloading. Oh, there it is. Okay, great. Okay, there it is. So now you can see there's a little more going on the home page, and the reason for that is that there's a lot more going on the results page in this copy of the Manager. So this has a lot of data in it, and what you'll see up here on the home tab under current lab results is any test that's had an abnormal result in the last 2 values reported will appear here. So you can see here that the first one, the IgG, was in fact normal on 8/7 and abnormal on 12/27. And if I just click on the result, it will take me to that result that's showing that IgG, and I can click on the graph button and get a look at what's been going on with the IgG number. So you can see this IgG number has been chronically low, and it's just come up to the normal level in August of 08. Now, when you're living for a very long time with myeloma, which hopefully all of us are going to be doing that have myeloma, these graphs can get very crowded. So what we've done is we've provided this graph tab here that says graphs. And what that allows you to do is to specify that you don't want to have the standard view of the graph. If you look at this graph, I'll push the preview button. This is a huge number of dates. This happens to be some of my results, not all of them, but some of them. And you can't read any of the dates. This looks like sort of a long-term downfall of Wall Street graph. But what you can do is you can go in here and you can say, okay, I only want to look at the most recent 12 results. And that will tame things down a bit for you. Once you do that, you can save that, and it will remember that so that any time you produce this graph, you won't get the the big one with all of the crowded lines. You can also change to a bar graph if you like that better. You see I'm just clicking between these two types of graphs, and if you click the Save button, then it will remember that that's how you like to see the graph. Now, one of the things that you really want to do with this is once you get a lot of results in, you want to use this to help communicate with your doctor. So we have this print function, and what you can do here is you can put a little message that will appear on the bottom of the report, and then it lists all of the tests that you're tracking, and then you indicate by checking the columns which tests you want to print numeric results for. That's under Print Results. And which tests you want to print graphs for. So what I've said here is I want to print all of these as numbers, and I want to print the IG quantitative as a graph and the CBC as a graph. And if I click the Print button, and I wait patiently, while I'm waiting, someone asked if there's a way to transfer test results that you've captured in Excel. There is an import function that is explained in the user manual where you can export your results from Excel into a text file, and then it will allow you to import those into the Myeloma Manager. Okay, so I'm going to generate this printed report. And the report has let's see if I can blow it up a little for you. It has a section where it's just putting out the numbers as they appear on the Results tab. And then if you go through and finish the results, then it will print each of the ones that you asked for a graph. And on the bottom it has the little message that I put in so that we know whose results these are. And, we've had a number of doctors say that this is fabulous when a patient can bring in a set of reports like this. It helps them really see what's going on because most of the doctor's offices don't have the capability to look at this stuff in this way. So in this way, we hope we're leading the doctors. So again, on the front page, we've got the abnormal test results, and you can drill down to see anything that's abnormal. We have the ability to customize the graphs. I'm going to skip to the end to the Info tab. And the Info tab has a couple of things on it. It has IMF upcoming events. You'll pardon us for running a little bit of a commercial, but we like to get the word out about all of people's good work doing events for us. And then we have a reference shelf on the right. And you can see the reference shelf has different folders. Basic information. So under Basic Information, there's Patient Handbook. If I click on Patient Handbook, it will go to the IMF website where you can either read online or download the Patient Handbook, or you can watch our Myeloma 101 video. Same thing for the Concise Review. Here's a link to that Lab Tests Online site that I was talking about, where you can look up information about tests, labtestsonline.org. But you can also add your own stuff. So I had Mike's new stuff here as a folder. I can click Add New. And let's say there's a cool website that I think is really interesting. So let's say we're talking about the NCI website. So that's http cancer.gov. And I'm going to put that in Mike's new stuff. So now I've got this NCI link that I just added to Mike's new stuff, and if I click on that, it'll take me to the NCI site. So you can use this reference shelf to collect the things that you find useful. You can also have it point to files on your computer. We have a calendar function, which looks a lot like Microsoft Outlook to most people, because it's actually licensed. We bought some tools that license the Outlook model, but we've extended it. So one of the things that we have here is called a task palette. You can see this thing I'm clicking on. So I can go to something that I previously put in there. It's part of the library that comes with the tool, Rev Cycle. And if I click on that, a lot of stuff just happened. What it did was it puts down a repeating Revlimid cycle on my calendar, beginning on the day that I highlighted. So you can see that it's telling me on each of these days I'm supposed to be taking 25 milligrams of Revlimid, and then you'll notice after 3 weeks it stops for a week, and then it begins again. And then it has a weekly Dex dose on here. And if I now go to my home page, these will show up under upcoming appointments and tasks. So that if I'm having trouble remembering, well, did I take my Revlimid today, I can check it off, and then I know that I don't have to take it again until October 3rd. We also have, if you run a Velcade cycle, we've predefined that, but you can go in and you can change the doses or change the frequency of when it occurs so that you can tailor it to your treatment program. You can also use this to keep track of doctor's appointments, so that if, let's say, I want to set up a doctor's appointment on this date, I can say I'm going to see Dr. Mears on that date, and I'm going to see him, at least the appointment says I'm going to see him at 2:30. I probably won't see him until 4 o'clock, but that's par for the course for him. I can also link it to his contact record. So I have in here also basically a phone book. So if I look under contacts, you can see I've entered Dr. Mears. And under Dr. Mears' contact record, you can see any of the appointments I have set up for him or notes that I've made about a visit, and I can go directly to that appointment and see what's going on. Any of you use Microsoft Outlook, you know that you know how this works. I also have the ability to enter notes, and notes are basically just a personal journal. So let's say that I wanted to say something about the webinar. So I have the webinar held with IMF, and say that that's on October 2nd, and I attended the webinar. Now, one of the other things that you can do with the notes is you can actually scan pieces of paper that you get at your appointment. If you've got a radiology report or something like that, you can either attach it as a file if you have it as a PDF, or you can scan it. So you can use any standard scanner that will work with your system. And I can then scan the piece of paper that I got. So I'm just, you can't see the scanner, but you can see me scanning the paper in that I just got outside of Gilda's Club. And then I can save that as part of the note that I generated. So you can write a personal journal. Oops, hold on. see. You can write a personal journal, and then you can pull up these things later on. You can also link them to a particular appointment, so that if you pull up that appointment, you'll be able to automatically go to any notes that you've put together for that appointment. The Contacts tab will allow you to create a new contact, so you can enter entries for people that you'd like to keep track of. Someone just asked a question as to whether the calendar can be synchronized and the contacts can be synchronized with Microsoft Outlook. That is not something that we can do at present, but it's something that we're looking into. Okay, so someone asked about where you can find information about importing results into the manager. Whenever you're having problems with the manager, there's this Need Help button in the corner. You can click that button. And we've put together a pretty extensive list of articles on how to do different things. If you went to search and we clicked, I don't know if this is going to work, but we'll give it a shot. If we click on import, yes, so there's an article there that says importing data into the Myeloma Manager. So if you look here, you'll find an explanation of how you have to format the data to import it into the manager and how you use the manager to do that. And again, if there's any, some of these tabs, some of these help articles have videos associated with them. So if you wanted to say, how do you print your results? And we give it a second to load the video. It will actually show you which button you have to push and then what you do after you push it and walk you through. But again, if anyone is having any trouble with the manager, there's this online support button here, which will take you to this online forum where you can ask questions and get answers about how to use the manager. But you can also just email us at mmpca@myeloma.org as well, and we're happy to try and help you through the questions because that's how we're going to learn how to make the program better. Okay. I think we've been through a pretty good walkthrough of the basic functions of the manager. The things that you really want to remember that are sort of not the basics are that you can always create a new test if you have a test that isn't on the Myeloma Manager list. And you can create your own group so that you could, if you had something about kidney function, you can create your own group, and then within that, you can put in a test. And you can put in your own range for the test and the units the test is defined in. And once you do that, okay, it's probably already a test there. Once you do that, that test will appear in your results tab so that you can always enter that test. If you want to fine-tune how the tests appear, you can drag the test around as I did at the beginning of the seminar, but you can also, let's say you wanted to move the whole IG group down, you can highlight the group, press the down key, and then it moves down below CBC. I can move it down again below CBC percentages. I can take an individual test like an IgM and take it out. I can move a test. I can move a test into a different group by just pulling up the test and changing the group that it's in. And I think now we'll just kind of take a breath and take a look at some of the questions that have come in and try and deal with those. So let me just, since I only have two hands, I have to go over here and take a look at the questions. Okay, so someone asked, is there any way to annotate a graph? Which is a very interesting question. If you wanted to mark where you added or subtracted a drug or changed the dosage. And the answer is yes, you can do that. And the way that we do that is we create a test that is, what I've done here is to create a test called Notes. And let's just look at what that test is. If you notice this Notes test, it says the type is text, meaning we're not going to type a number, we're only going to type text into it. Okay, so if I go back and I look at what I have in Notes here, let's say it says here that began RevDex treatment. Let's put another one, ended. Oops, I have to click the date and test button so I can type in that. So I say ended RevDex treatment. Actually, that's an older date, so let's say ended Valdex treatment. And then let's say if I want to annotate a graph and use those notes, I go to the Graph tab, and I'll take that. I'll take a CBC number. Let's take the hemoglobin, and let's take a look at that graph. Okay, so here it is, and actually, I've already annotated that graph, so I need to pick another one so I can show you how it works. Okay, so here's the platelet graph, and I'm going to have to see where those notes are. Those notes are, they're from March to November of 2007. So let's say I'm going to plot this data from March to November of 2007. So let me go back to 2007. And November 2007. Okay. And preview the graph. So now I've got these platelets plotted there. And then if I go to the notes and select the notes and say add text, those notes will then appear on the graph so that they'll be synchronized with the dates that I've picked there. So it's a little complicated, so it's not for the faint of heart, but you can put annotations on a graph. And if I save the graph, the next time I plot that graph, it will show me those notes. And if I move the date range around a little bit, it cleans it up a bit so that you can see them better. See if there are any other questions here. Someone asked if you have two lab results for one day, can the program be modified to enter the same two dates with different results? The answer is no. You'll have to lie and just say one is the day before. It's very unusual to get two of the same tests done on the same day. So you can either pick one or just not enter the date exactly as it is. Okay, let's see. What else have we got here? Can the program be saved to a CD to make it more portable? What you can do with the program is if you want to take your data somewhere else, there's this export as backup file function. And what you can then do is you can browse to where you want to put the backup file and click the backup key, backup button. And then you can then go to another computer and import from backup file. You just have to have installed the program on the other computer. That's how I did the loading of that fully populated data set before. So you can take your data from one computer to the other, but you have to have the Myeloma Manager installed on both computers. it says we share our results with others, need to have read-only user status to share our results. Well, if you give someone, you can give someone a printed copy of your results. That's the ultimate read-only. But you can also give them a backup file of your results, in which case you have the original on your computer. They're not modifying your results, so that you could then, if they change it, it doesn't really matter. They shouldn't be changing it, but they won't be changing your data. Someone else, Janet Snow, has asked, can we combine multiple tests on one graph? We can't do that yet. We're looking at ways to do that. There are problems with that in terms of how you note which test is which and whether the numbers that the tests are reported in are in the same range. But we are looking at that. A number of people have asked about that. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Okay, that looks like all the questions we have at this point. Is there anyone else who'd like to ask a question? If you would like to ask a question, please click the little question mark on the bottom right of the screen. Someone's just asked, can we have the graph scaled properly on the time scale? Well, one of the things that that's something that a number of people have asked for. Right now, the tests are evenly spaced based on the number of results that have been reported. So if here we had the first test here is on January 31st, and the next one is reported on March 5th, and then there's one a month later on April 4th, those are the same distance away. So it gives you a little bit of a distorted view of the time scale. We're looking at how to do that. It's not clear that we have a way around that technically at this point, but we are looking at it. Someone's asked, Rhonda Quinn, can anyone see the results on my computer? In order to see the results on your computer, people have to have the password that we entered before to get into the program. You can't get into the data without a password. If someone tries to go through the back door and look at your data files, I mentioned at the beginning, they're encrypted, they're coded so that they look like gobbledygook unless you have the program and the proper password to get into it. Someone's asked that the time of the appointment does not show up on the calendar. I will have to look into that. I'm not sure if that's something that we can address. If you double-click on the appointment, it will show you the time of the appointment. And let's see what else we got here. Someone said they've downloaded version 2.0.15. How do you get the update? You just go back to manager.myeloma.org and re-download the program, and then you can just install, and it will update the software. It will not disturb your data. So if you go to manager.myeloma.org, you can update your software and get a current result. Someone else has asked if a treatment ends on a date when we don't have a result. How does that work with the annotation that says it doesn't show up? That, I believe, is a bug. We will look into that and see if we can fix that. Someone said that they inadvertently missed part of the webinar because the sound was turned off. We are recording the webinar. It's the first time we've tried this, so we don't know if that will work, but we're hopeful that we can put up a replay where you'll be able to see and hear what went on. Someone else has asked, what does HIPAA compliant mean? When we were talking about the Myeloma Manager, and we said that the data is all on your computer, is password protected, it's an encrypted data store, and it's HIPAA compliant. What we mean by that is it conforms with the government's privacy laws because we protect your data. No one can view it but you. You need the password in the program to be able to view your data. Okay, any other questions here? Oh, can tests from two different hospitals be entered and tracked separately? Absolutely. There are often problems when you have tests done in multiple institutions. Sometimes the labs have different scales or they have different equipment, and the results really can't be mixed because they're not compatible. You can just define a new version of the test. Like you could have the Freelight SV for St. Vincent's versus a Freelight NYC for New York Cornell. You can just set up a second version of the test and enter your results there. Someone named Andrea has just asked if we've gotten any of her questions, but this is actually the first question that I've gotten from Andrea. So Andrea, if you have a question, can you please repost it the same way you just posted this question about whether we've gotten any of your questions. Someone wants the application to move faster, so do we, but we're working on it. Okay, any other questions out there? Entering test results will not allow decimals, each are 1.3 instead of whole numbers. Actually, definitely you can enter decimals. If you have a test, like say this magnesium test here is showing with a range of, or this phosphorus test with a range of 3 to 4. So if I put in 3.3, it's going to show up as 3. But actually, I can go into the test, I double-click on the header, and say, yes, I want to change it. And I can say, okay, I'm going to show 1 decimal place. You see, I just click this thing here. I can show 1 decimal place, 2 decimal places, whatever, and click Save. And then now this phosphorus test shows us 3.3. So you can go in and show the decimal places, or you can suppress them. Someone else has just asked, can we disable the out-of-range warning when you enter the test result and it warns you that it's not normal? Yes, we've had a lot of complaints about that. We thought it was a great idea when we started. But what we've now done is that you'll only get that warning the first time you enter an abnormal result for that test. If the prior test is abnormal, then it's not going to bother you about the fact that the current one is also abnormal. Someone has said, Andrea Baker, that she can't enter albumin, alpha-1 globulin, et cetera, et cetera. You can actually do that. You can enter any test. All you need to do is click Setup Test and then click on the New Test button, and you can type in your own tests and add whatever you would like. We're going to be expanding the library of tests that we distribute with the manager, but you can create any test that you want just by typing it in under New Test. So again, in order to do that, you click on the Setup Test button and then click the New Test button, and you can enter whatever test you'd like. Someone else has asked, what are the admin and tools bar for? The tools bar allows you to, there's only one thing under there right now. It tells you how many days in advance you want to show upcoming tests and appointments on your home tab. So that controls over here how many days ahead are going to appear in this upcoming appointments. The admin bar will take you to the Setup Test button screen. It will also take you directly to creating a new test. So you can get there that way as well. And you can delete results, but do that very carefully. You can also modify your account information. So if you want to change your password or change your name and address, we don't really use the name and address information for anything. So we sort of thought we might at the beginning, but the main thing there is the password. And under File, again, you use the export function to create a backup file. You can either import from a text file that you've put together to import all the results from something like Excel, or from a backup file that's been previously created. And you can also get to the Print Lab results function from that menu. Someone's saying they're having difficulty looking at the program on an older computer. This program uses a lot of complicated functions, and an older computer is just not going to do as good a job on it as a newer computer, so don't really have a good answer for that. Someone has asked again about whether those tests that we're missing are standard tests, and the answer is, the albumin and so forth. And yes, of course they are, but we haven't really been able to fully populate our library at this point. So if you don't find something there and you want to type it in, you can definitely type it in. We are working at being able to do this. So any other last-minute questions? Last call. Okay, I'd like to do one more thing before we part company today. Have a brief, let's see if I can find it. Have a brief set of questions I wanted to have you guys answer. Let me see if I can find them. Yeah, there they are. Okay. So if you guys could answer these few questions for me, I'd really appreciate it. The first is, have you installed the Myeloma Manager? Do you use Microsoft Outlook to manage your calendar or contacts? Have you used Microsoft Excel? And if you want to type something about how we can improve the manager, that would be great. So if you can do that, I'd be very grateful, and we thank you for attending the webinar. While you're doing the poll, someone asked if whether you can scan each lab report and have it go into the system. You can scan the lab reports and save the paper in the computer, but it will not automatically read the results off of the paper. We're working with a few cancer centers to see if there's a way that they could provide a direct file that could be ingested or imported into the Myeloma Manager with your lab report, and we're hopeful that we may actually get that to work. But at the moment, that's not possible. Okay, so any last-minute people on the poll? We're going to call the poll in just a few seconds, and then thank you for attending. Okay, the polling is closed. So again, on behalf of the IMF, I thank you all for attending our webinar. We are recording the webinar, so we're hopeful that we'll be able to put it up for replay if anyone wants to look at it. And we do encourage you to download the current release of the Myeloma Manager, which is at manager.myeloma.org. Let me just put that address up again for you.
And while you're doing that, Mike, many, many thanks for making the webinar possible and for your genius in developing this.
Mutual Admiration Society. Thank you, Susie.
Okay, take care.
Okay, thank you, everyone.